Konbanwa, annyeong, hola, hi, welcome back to Malia's room. Yo soy Malia y me encanta hablar, pues coge un poco de agua, algunos bocadillos y siéntate conmigo, por favor. Hoy hablamos de la película The Black Phone. This is a segment on my channel where I do a movie review and breakdown. Today we're going to be talking about The Black Phone. Now, whenever The Black Phone came out, I saw it in theaters and it was peak. I knew from the first time I watched it that I was like, oh, this is horror history, like, and not because it did anything particularly like different from other horror movies, but we'll get into that in the review section of the video. According to IMDb, The Black Phone is a psychological, supernatural horror movie along with a mystery and a thriller. So, The Black Phone came out in 2021 and is about a boy who was abducted receiving phone calls from the person that abducted him's previous victims. And my GOAT, Ethan Hawke, is in this movie. I say my GOAT because I'm a fan of Sinister. I don't really think Sinister 2 was necessary, but it was still something I watched because I do enjoy like the main villain in the movie. The Black Phone takes place in North Denver in 1978, and our main character is named Finney. Finney is played by Mason Thames. So Finney is playing baseball, and he's pitching, and he's throwing really good pitches, meaning the other person is not able to hit it. That's all I can tell you. I don't know much about baseball, or any sports for that matter. His first two throws get past the person that's batting, but the third one doesn't, and his team ends up losing the game. However, the batter that he was up against at the end of the game, when they do that whole like, oh, good game, and they line up and like high five each other or whatever the fuck. At the end of the game, the character that was batting against him, named Bruce, came up to him and said, like, your arm is mint, you almost had me, like, you did a really good job. Right after Bruce and Finney have this like little short conversation and sportsmanship, we see a black van, and then the title sequence just rolls. And it's like so ominous. After the title sequence, we're introduced to Gwen, which is Finney's little sister, and she's played by Madeline McCraw. The family is up, and by the family I mean Dad, Finney, and Gwen are up. They're getting ready for school, so they're eating breakfast and everything, and the dad says to Finney, who's just eating some cereal, you think you can slurp that a little louder? And already I'm already irritated. Like, I'm not even a morning person, so if I'm up and I'm getting ready for school and I'm just trying to eat my cereal and you're mad because I'm slurping, like, bro, get off my dick. What the fuck? But already from this scene, I knew I was not gonna like the father. And then Gwen gets up and she goes to like get some bread to have toast for breakfast, and she accidentally slams the bag of bread down too loud, and everybody winces. And I said, oh, that is a trauma response. And your dad seems to have anger issues, so much to the point where regular noises, like, these are not the kids being loud as fuck. They're literally just doing their regular routine to get ready to go to school and eat breakfast. And he's like visibly irritated. So as Gwen and Finney are on their way to school, they walk past this missing flyer, and on the missing flyer is actually Bruce, the same Bruce that Finney played a baseball game against. His name is Bruce Yamada. Before they even make it to school, Gwen and Finney stumble across a school fight, and an irrelevant side character named Moose, he has the audacity to say, and I know this is supposed to be of the time, so it's not like inaccurate, but just the audacity to say, scrawny little b. We're quickly introduced to my personal GOAT, Robin. And you'll see why he's the GOAT by the time we finish. In the end, Robin wins the fight because, like I said, he's my personal GOAT, and he makes it especially bloody. Like, he has Moose pinned, and Moose is down for the count. He's not trying to get back up, but he keeps just punching him in the face to make it more bloody. Now, before Gwen ends up seeing too much of the blood, Finney tells her, like, let's go, like, we have to get to school so they can get away from the scene. And they start talking about someone called the Grabber. Apparently, the grabber has been taking kids, and there's this myth or lore that if you say the name, the grabber, out loud, that he'll come get you, basically. So Finney feels really uncomfortable with Gwen even saying his name, and he refuses to say the name himself. And on this walk to school, we see a shot of that same black van that we saw before the title sequence of the movie. Now, the next few scenes are just establishing Finn as a character, and more particularly as a normal, regular child. He likes rockets, and he doesn't like conflict. He actually avoids conflict. He avoids conflict so much to the point that there are these three boys that want to jump him, and he knows that. So after the bell rings, and instead of going to lunch, he goes to hide in a bathroom stall, which for me has always been dumb, because if you're gonna run anywhere, it shouldn't be where there's nobody else to help you or witness what's gonna happen. That's just my personal opinion. And again, I have to point out, these bullies are so audacious. Like, and again, I know that this is probably as a sign of the times, but I just have to call this out because, like, no, like, you're sick, like, ew. I just want to briefly mention here, I'm gonna go between calling the main character Finney and Finn, but Finney is cornered in the bathroom by the three bullies, and they have a fucking audacity to say, "What are you doing in our bathroom? The sign says for boys, not." Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up, you cornball ass motherfucker. Like, what the fuck? Before anything happens, though, Robin ends up coming in the bathroom because he has to, wash up his bloodied up knuckles from the fight. Because Robin is not stupid, he realizes that these three boys are bullying Finney and trying to jump him, so he says, "If you fuck with Finney, I'm gonna fuck with you." And the three little shits run away because they're not like that for real. But Robin makes sure to remind Finney that at some point he's going to have to stand up for himself, which is, I wouldn't say very subtle foreshadowing. Now, Finn asks Robin about the fight with Moose, basically trying to understand, like, why he even fought with Moose, since Robin knew that he had the upper hand, and, like, why he beat him up so badly, basically. He's asking, like, hey, if you knew you were gonna win the fight anyway, and, like, that you're stronger than him, why did you even fight him? And why didn't you just stop when you already knew that you won? Like, why did you make it extra, like, brutal? Robin just, like, very nonchalantly says, in a situation like that, the more blood, the better. When I initially watched this movie back then, I was like, oh, I just fucking know that you watch rated R movies. And then they started talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I was like, right, right. Now, these scenes really just emphasize that Finney and Robin are genuinely friends, and Finney actually admires Robin a lot and thinks that Robin is, like, very tough and that he's a dependable person. He's safe. Now, we're shown Gwendolyn being pulled out of her class and sent to the principal's office, and in the principal's office are two police officers, or detectives. And every time I watch this, I just always wonder, where is her father, and is this legal? Because she's definitely a minor, and I guess because she's not getting interrogated, she's getting interviewed, but again, that just seems really, really iffy to me. Like, why are we... And then the positioning they had her in for the interview, like, I'll show a picture if I can, but the two police officers are across from her, and she's basically at a corner, sitting in a chair in a corner of the room. Like, what are we doing? Now, this is where we find out that Gwen actually has, like, visions or premonitions, and the police are trying to ask her questions about it because basically she told Bruce's sister, someone that she's friends with, that she had the vision about Bruce, and then her friend proceeded to tell the police. So now the police are, I guess, following up with the lead, and if this is your best lead, ugh. Like, this is just really showing the police being terrible at their jobs as usual. But Gwen is a certified diva, meaning she's not for these authority figures poking and prodding and being terrible at their fucking jobs, so she proceeds to call them dumb fucking fart knockers, much to her principal's chagrin. Now, by the end of the school day, Gwen and Finney are walking home on their usual route, but Gwen ends up breaking off, and she promptly reminds Finney, like, hey, it's Friday, I'm sleeping at Susie's, and Finn very quickly catches on, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll take care of Dad, like, whatever. And they part ways and say, like, I'll see you soon. Gwen specifically tells him, don't finish all the ice cream. And I was like, wow. These are some cute siblings. So at this point in the film, it's basically put in front of us that Finn and Gwen's father is an alcoholic, and the reason that Gwen goes to stay at a friend's house on Fridays specifically is because every Friday it seems their father gets plastered drunk, and it's basically just not safe. So Finn makes sure to take care of him, as in, turning the TV off when he falls asleep, and trying to make sure that he's not provoked in any way. And it's just it's really sad to see. It's not, it definitely gives you a very uncomfortable feeling. Now Finn uses this unsupervised, because that's what it is essentially. His father is passed out drunk in the living room, or whatever room it is that he's sitting in. So Finn takes this time to watch a scary movie. Now, I didn't mention it in much detail, but earlier when Finn was talking to Robin and they were talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Finn explained how his father would never let him watch anything like that scary or rated R. So Finn takes the time to actually watch something that his father would not let him watch, and he gets really scared. But he handles it very well. He gets scared, but he doesn't really have any visceral reaction to it. It's just noticeable that maybe the hair on the back of his neck stood up, and he looked around to make sure that his father didn't wake up while he shrunk into like a blanket. And it was like, oh wow. Like, again, this is a little ass kid, bro. It's a little ass kid. Now when Finney wakes up, he's woken up by the sounds of a belt hitting Gwen, and their dad is beating Gwen with a belt in the kitchen, and it's fucking terrible. Like, just the general trauma of getting beat with the belt, but also the added trauma of, like, it's definitely the AM right now. It's Saturday morning, and not only is she getting her ass beat on a Saturday morning, but her brother gets woken up to the sounds of her getting her ass beat on a Saturday morning. That's fucking terrible. Now, here's where we see a very important characteristic of Finn. He wants to stop his father from beating Gwen, but he doesn't have it within him to actually step into that space. So, within the film, the way that this is shot is very interesting to me. The whole cinematography of this movie is very good to me. But basically, Finney is standing behind this little border. It's not a full border, but like it's portrayed as a border with how it's shot. He's standing in this little room in this border between like the room that he fell asleep in and the kitchen, and he's just like lurching forward a little bit because he's like, oh, I should go stop it, but he doesn't move his feet at all. And the whole time it's just Gwen and the father, and we're witnessing Gwen and the father going back and forth, but it's also basically like the equivalent perspective of Finney just like standing there watching what's happening between his own father and his own sister. It's terrible. Then we find out that the reason the father is upset is because he heard from the police that Gwen was basically interviewed, I guess, and she was asked specifically about dreams or visions that she has, and this is like a very big issue for him. He specifically says, like, before one of the lashes, like, they came to my job, Gwen, or something like that. I'm like, I would hope the police would come to your job when they're trying to figure something out that involves your child. Like, what did you want them to wait until you clocked out? What the fuck? So like I said earlier, Gwen is a diva and she's not for that authority figure shit. So she tries to like bait her father to like stop hitting her, and she grabs a liquor bottle and she says, if you hit me again, I'll drop this. And alcoholism is a addiction, okay? So I can understand the father to a certain extent, but it don't mean that I forgive or accept or think that this is anywhere near okay. Because a normal parent, a healthy parent, I should say, for better words, if your child is holding a bottle of alcohol and telling you, don't hit me or I'm gonna waste this alcohol, and that provokes you further, like you care so much about the alcohol that you get angrier, you have a fucking problem. A healthy adult, a healthy parent would be like, oh, okay, like, we don't need to do all of that, because why are you, like, you're clearly trying to gain an advantage here by positioning something that you think is of high value to me. And if the high value thing to you as my child is a fucking bottle of alcohol, I think that would hit me like, I'd just be like a Raven Simone moment, like, or Simone. I heard that it's pronounced Simone. It'd just be like a That's So Raven moment where she has like a vision, and I'd be like, holy shit, my child thinks that alcohol is more important to me than they are, like, or of equal importance. Like, my child thinks that they are as important to me as a bottle of alcohol. But no, the father doesn't have any of this self-reflection, and it's probably because, like I said, alcoholism is a disease, and we don't particularly know yet why Gwen having like these visions is so upsetting for him, but it's clearly much more deep than we know of. So the dad basically like lurches, like, oh, it's so terrible, like lurches at Gwen, and she fidgets and drops the bottle, and then he starts beating her even more. And it's just crazy to me, because like, you're that mad about some wasted alcohol. Like, your child wanted to not get beat so bad that they tried to bargain with you like this, and even in their bargaining, you just like don't give a fuck. In fact, you just went harder. Like, you're sick. You're sick. Like, he literally says, after Gwen tells him, like, if you hit me again, I'm gonna drop this, he literally says, you drop that and I'll beat your ass twice as hard. Like, do you hear yourself, bro? But twice mentioned. Yes. We get exposition that Gwen and Finney's mom also had visions. But it didn't really, it wasn't healthy for her, is essentially how it's like construed. And so their father's concern with Gwen having visions is that it'll have the same like terrible effect on Gwen as it did with the mom, and that's why he feels so strongly about it. But he doesn't really frame it like that. Obviously, I don't think beating her would get her to understand like that strong sentiment. But on top of it, he just outright makes her deny that the visions are real or like they mean anything. He makes her say like, my dreams are just dreams, they don't mean anything, out loud. And it's like, if you wanted to have an open conversation of like these visions, you could have done that, but you instead chose to just fucking be violent. And I'll never understand that. Like, she's not gonna understand any better why you're against her having these visions from you beating her ass. Like, I promise you, she's not. If you would have had the conversation and said, oh, well, I'm just concerned because, you know, your mom had visions too and it wasn't really good for her and I just don't want that for you, that'd be different, okay? That'd be different. But no, he makes her say, my dreams are just dreams, they don't mean anything, and just completely, he just completely invalidates her. And it's just like, when I watched this the first time and when I've rewatched it, I always had the sentiment of like, if it was real to the mom and the mom struggled with it so bad that it concerns you, is it not only logical to assume that it's going to be that real to your daughter? And since your daughter is literally just a fucking kid, that you should probably find a better way to support her through it than just try to have her pretend it doesn't exist. What do I know, right? It also says a lot about how the father views the mother, and we'll talk more about that later because like we get some more exposition there too. So again, Finn was just watching this and he's just visibly fucking angry but not moving. And the beating is finally over. Gwen starts walking away and the father yells, and don't put any ice on that bottom either. I want you to think about what you did. Well, and after being, you know, essentially let go, because he's like, yeah, you're done here, get the fuck out of my face, little nigga. That's basically what he said. But that's not actually what he said, but that's just how I summarized it. After this, Gwen and Finney go and they sit in front of the TV, and Gwen just cries on Finney's shoulder, and it's it's heartbreaking. And honestly, a little too on the nose for me because I have exact memories of something traumatic happening, and then my brother and I are literally just sitting in front of a TV screen, and I'm crying on his shoulder. Like, is this fucking play about us? I say all that to say trauma sucks, and yeah, like, there is only certain ways that children who are lucky enough to have siblings, because having these traumatic experiences as an only child is even worse. But there's only so many ways that children that have siblings can cope, with each other and regarding a situation that they both been through. And like this display really just shows like these siblings are very much like locked in with each other. Like they're close. Like they're not the type of siblings that don't like each other or are like out to get each other. Like they genuinely care about each other and are like dependent upon each other. And we don't get a break from the trauma and the drama at all, because right after we see Finney and Gwen kind of like trying to wind down from the events that just unfolded, we see my goat Robin walking somewhere by himself, and then a black van. The same black van from earlier, yes. So yeah, pretty much the black van equals the grabber. And if the black van is anywhere around your ass, you're finna get grabbed. And that's what happened to Robin. We learned from missing flyers that Robin's full name is Robin Ariano, and the community is going like on a search party looking for him in the woods. I never really understood particularly why they looked for him in the woods. Like, again, this is a movie, so there's a certain suspension of reality you have to have. But what possible reason would the police have for thinking they were gonna find him in the woods anyway? Like, what evidence pointed to that? It's a black van. Like, that would have to mean that there's somewhere for the van to drive around in the forest, and there isn't. And in this little community, like, there's a very clear, like, this is the start of the forest. Like, it's not one of those big deep forests that is like all encompassing and like hard to maneuver. It's kind of just like a regular forest. Like, this is a suburban neighborhood. It's made to be like a very distinct suburb nature type of thing. So it always confused me. I was like, you guys generally think that you're gonna find Robin out there in the woods, when you guys all know that the person that's kidnapping these little boys has a black van and has been kidnapping them from places within the neighborhood, like, but the woods. And then they also had search dogs. So I was like, are we looking for a body, or are we looking for like Robin? You know what I mean? I don't know. It was always just like a little confusing for me. I'm like, what are they expecting to find in the woods? Like, Robin only just got kidnapped. You can't possibly think that he got kidnapped. And maybe I'm getting like the timeline wrong, but from my viewing experiences, it seems like this search happens like pretty soon after the missing flyers go up, which go up pretty soon after he gets kidnapped. So I was just like, you think that the perpetrator would kidnap him and dispose of him within the same day, when it's like known that everyone knows that he's missing? I don't know. See, this is the future forensic psychologist in me. I'm just like, that doesn't make much sense for like criminal behavior, you know? The perpetrator has a history of keeping the boys that he kidnaps, for a certain amount of time, and if within this time frame it's only been a short amount of time since he kidnapped the victim, he's probably not going to dispose of him or be even out to get caught in suspicion, you know? And also, even if that were the case, why would he dispose of the body in the woods? I mean, like, it's not ridiculous to think that a body would be disposed in the woods. Like, don't get me wrong there. It's just, with this being the suburbs and with like all of this happening within the suburbs, I don't know. Like, I don't know, because the black van, I don't know how the black van is considered like inconspicuous, especially in this neighborhood, but it's considered inconspicuous. So, you know, you would think that someone would notice the van, if it was somewhere by the forest, like, it's not, for me, it's not a typical looking van, but I have a natural suspicion to vans in general. But that's my long-winded way of saying I just never understood why they were searching the woods, and or what they were really searching for and who they were searching for, because by this point in the movie we already know that there are previous victims. But if they weren't out there searching for Robin, why? And if they were out there searching for Robin, also why? I don't know, I just didn't understand. I know you have to do something, and maybe they thought he got lost in the woods, but be fucking for real. This is like, he's not the first person, he's not the first kid to like go missing, you know? Like, everybody knows, but I guess it's not being talked about or like covered. I don't know. Reality probably is the police didn't have anything better to work with. Like, what's new? Now, Finn is stepping over puddles full of pain with his Timbs on type shit. He's in his bag. Like, he's very distraught about hearing that Robin is missing. In his distress, he asks Gwen, like, can you do the dream thing? Which also provides us context that he personally does believe in Gwen's visions, but he, you know, just tries to prevent her from having them or talking about them because of their father. And Gwen is like, yeah, bro, that's not how it works. Like, I can't just conjure up a dream. It's not how it works. Now, for some reason, after Robin gets kidnapped, the police interview Gwen again. And, like, my thing is, your case rests on a middle schooler? Like, your entire case, like, your serial killer case, your serial child killer at that case, rests on the shoulders of a middle schooler? What the fuck, bro? Since Robin is missing, those three bullies from before, those three homophobic bullies from before, they proceed to beat Finney's ass. And at this point, we kind of have to call Gwen the GOAT, because she sees that Finney's getting jumped. She picks up a rock and she starts swinging, and she successfully gets one or two of them off of him. But them little niggas was not playing, and one of them promptly kicked Gwen in the face, which, again, that is just crazy to me. Why are you like, these, I don't know exactly what grade everyone's in, but it's very obvious that the three bullies and Finney are like at least 2 grades above Gwen. Why are you kicking her in the face? Like, I guess to put it in for a reference, or like a frame of reference that I'm viewing it from, that's like an 8th grader kicking a 5th grader in the face. Bitch, y'all know? Like, not gonna lie, nigga like me, I was gonna get that shit back in blood if that's my little sister. You're gonna leave here with something broken for kicking my sister in the face. Like, no cap. Benny doesn't fight back at all. He literally just like lays there and takes the hits, which is a strength in its own. Like, you can't deny that. But so after this whole Finney gets jumped, Gwen gets kicked in the fucking face, they're on their way home again, and it's another Friday. So Gwen, you know, goes off on the route, and she's like, hey, it's Friday, I'm going to Susie's. And Finney keeps walking, and I'm personally hearing the fucking saxophones because the black van is right there. And it says, abracadabra. Abracadabra this fucking Glock, bro. So the infamous grabber himself steps out of the van, and he stages an interaction, a accidental interaction with Finney. And my thoughts on this will always be the same. The grabber is a pedophile. I'm not gonna sit here and say PDF, maybe if I want to later on, but I'm not gonna clean up the word. It is what it is. This motherfucker is a pedophile, okay? And I'll get into certain discourse about this later. Pedophiles are all the same. They need to be taken to the fucking guillotines. They follow the same pattern of behavior of like manipulating interactions and situations with children. And once you do that, to me, once you're manipulating and staging interactions with children that you don't have a relationship with prior to this, I'm just gonna assume that you're a pedophile. I don't care. That's weird. So the staged interaction that the grabber picks is, oh, he was stepping out of his van and he had a bag of groceries and he dropped the grocery bag and now everything's all over the place. And Finney stops and he's like, oh, do you need help? motherfucker like me, I'm not helping no fucking white man, especially one that's just like a fucking clown. And more accurately, he's just like a musician, but like he has on a disguise. The powder on his face makes him look like a clown. I'm not about to, no. You got that, bro. You got that. You're able-bodied and you're an adult. You don't need help from a child. An adult will never need help from a child. If an adult asks a child for help with something, that's a bad sign. If they're unrelated, to preface, like, we can get into the details of that, but that's not what this video is about. No strange adult should be asking a child for help. That's all I'm trying to say. All pedophiles are the same. They use the same tactics. So, like I said earlier, Finney offers his help, and the grabber's like, oh yes, like, thanks, I need help. And then he's like, do you want to see a trick? Do you want to see a magic trick?
What the fuck is going on in here on this day?
And Finney, he's like, oh yeah. And again, where I'm reminded, this is a little ass kid, and also a little ass kid that lives in the suburbs. But shortly after Finney says, yeah, I want to see a magic trick, he looks in the van and he notices that there are black balloons in the van. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but within these little interviews with Gwen, the police made it like known information that black balloons were found along with like other bits of the investigation. And now Finney's seeing black balloons in the van. And again, I'm hearing the saxophones. And this is only, I noted it down, this is only 26 minutes and 57 seconds into the movie. Like, this movie is like a little over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I was like, damn. So now Finney wakes up in a dirty, dark basement on a mattress. An adult man kidnapped a little boy that he doesn't know and put him downstairs in the basement on a mattress. And it's not a bed. It's just a mattress. There's no sheets on it. It looks disgusting. And people will really sit and say they don't think the grabber is a pedophile. But I will say the grabber's masks are very well designed. Like, that's one of the parts of the movie that I enjoy the most, is like the masks, how certain parts can be like taken on or off. It's just very well designed, very intimidating. So basically the way the grabber has been kidnapping these fucking children is by, again, staging an interaction, getting their attention, and then using the black balloons as a cover for him spraying a drug in their face that makes them pass out and affects their vision, and dragging them into the back of his van. So when Finney wakes up, the grabber's down there already looking at him, and he basically tells Finney, like, I'm not gonna hurt you anymore. This lying ass bitch. And again, pedophiles are all the same, bro. Like, oh my god, they're all the same. They follow the same patterns. They disrespect your boundaries, then they try to build rapport with you so that you feel normal with them disrespecting your boundaries, and then they do further harm. It's the same pattern. Intrude on your boundaries, pretend like it's normal, try to build rapport with you, and then further intrude on your boundaries. Pedophiles and groomers. Not every groomer is a pedophile, but every pedophile is a groomer, okay? And within this cycle, they also make sure to instill some type of fear or just like dominance with like over whoever is being groomed. And it's the same pattern of behavior. They disrespect your boundaries. They try to build rapport while also making you afraid of them. And then they further disrespect your boundaries and do further harm. It's terrible. And this motherfucker is over here talking about, I'm not gonna hurt you anymore. I know what you are, bro. You're a liar. So the grabber is grooming Finney, and I mean that in both ways, as in physically grooming him, like pushing his hair back because he's sweaty and his hair is stuck to his forehead, but like also grooming him in the sexual way. And Finney is just like very visibly uncomfortable. Like he he retreats into himself and he tries to get away from the grabber's touches. And no matter how many times I watch this movie, this specific scene will always like make my fucking stomach ache, because how like uncomfortable and scared but like trying to present as like brave Finney is, it's just terrible. Like, that's a little ass kid, leave him alone, stop touching him, please stop,
Get your fucking ass off my daughter, bitch!
So once the grabber leaves, Finn gets up and he's exploring his cell, because that's really what the fuck it is, and he sees, so once the grabber leaves, Finn, you know, gets up and explores his cell. It's a basement, but it's really a cell. Like, call a spade a spade. There's a toilet. There's not much. There's a toilet and there's a bed. And there's a window and there's a black phone. And of course, that black phone is going to be important because the movie is literally called The Black Phone. But that's about it. That room, the cell it's a cell, okay? But Finn, again, he tries to remain like super calm, and it just breaks my heart to see it, because the only reason he really has the capability of being this calm in a situation like this is because he's pretty used to being and feeling in danger. Although this feeling of danger, like, coming from his father, because like that's what I'm talking about. His previous exposure to trauma is from his father, and although that trauma or that like danger was probably more emotional, because the father's violence never seems to be actually directed towards Finney, but that emotional damage and fear, it definitely will transfer over to a situation of being fucking kidnapped. And so the reason that Finney is so calm, like, outwardly, is because he's used to having to posture like that in other circumstances in which he's in danger. Also, you can see it when he allows himself to get beat up by the three bullies. Like, he literally retreats into himself and he puts on this front that he's okay and that it's fine. And it's just so sad. Like, you have the capability to handle this, like, very maturely and well, and by well I mean in a way that will protect you and keep you safe, and you only have that because you've been exposed to shit that is like equally as bad already, and you've learned how to just live with it. Like, that is so sad. Also, I didn't mention this at the start of the video, but just so you know, the reason I keep getting into these like tangents specifically relating to the children is because I concentrated in children and youth studies in college. So I studied child development and all of this shit, and I care a lot about children. So I will be very passionate whenever I'm talking about anything to do specifically with children. Long story short, Finn is very calm and he's coping with this very well, but it's sad because we know he's coping with this very well because he's used to being in danger and not being in control and not having any power against a stronger, more violent man. And it's fucked up. So at this point, everybody in the town, or whatever this little fucking place is called, everybody knows that Finn is missing. Like, the father knows, Gwen, because it's Friday and she was staying at Susie's house, somebody called Susie's mom and she found out that fucking Finn is missing, and she ran home crying. It's just it's so emotional. While Finn is just laying there on that dirty ass mattress in the basement, which is his prison cell, he hears the phone ring. And like I said, this black phone is going to be important throughout the whole movie, but this phone is disconnected. It doesn't ring. There's no person on the other line. Like, the wire that connects the phones, I don't know about the technology behind that. I don't have a house phone. I got a cell phone. I'm sorry. My phone is broken. It doesn't take calls, and you can't call anybody. Like, the wire is cut. But he hears the phone ringing. And Finn says something like, I guess, stop it, or like, what's going on, in response to hearing the phone ring, thinking that he's by himself. But the grabber is actually in the basement with him, just fucking watching him. And he responds to whatever Finn says, like, what are you talking about? And Finn gets jump scared. And I said, oh my fucking gosh. It's creepy enough as an adult, like, if you wake up and someone is fucking watching you. I can only imagine a child. Like, yeah, I got kidnapped. I fell asleep in this room against my will because I was fucking drugged. So it's not like I actually was like, oh, nighty night. I woke up because of a scary ass ringtone I wasn't even supposed to hear. I'm speaking to myself, and there's this grown-ass motherfucker. He was in here this whole time while I was sleeping. Finn is quick on his feet, and he uses this time to try to bargain with the grabber to let him go. And he's like, you know, if you let me go, I won't tell anyone. Like, you can blindfold me. Like, I won't say anything. And this falls on deaf ears. He does find out that the grabber lives with someone, and that the someone is a he, and that he's just right upstairs. He finds this out because he's a smart ass kid. You might be tired of me saying this, but I'm gonna keep saying it. All pedophiles are the same, bro. Because within this conversation, the grabber lets Finn know, like, oh, I will never make you do anything that you won't like. Chincharo? Are you fucking serious right now? I will never make you do anything you don't like. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is generally why I don't understand, and I didn't even know find it. Like, this is generally why I don't understand the discourse, and first of all, I didn't even know this discourse existed until, like, pretty recently, that people didn't perceive the grabber as a pedophile. What do you mean he's not a pedophile? He just told this little boy that he kidnapped and that is on a soiled mattress in his fucking basement that he's hiding from whoever he lives with upstairs, that he'll never make the little boy do anything that he won't like. Like, I won't ever make you do anything you don't like. That's why I kidnapped you and have you locked in my basement. Like, this is literally the grabber saying, oh, I'm not gonna do anything to you that you won't like, as in, you're gonna like what I'm gonna do to you. What? What? Like, and then people are like, oh, he's not a pedophile. That's a pedophile. That's a pedophile. That is a pedophile. That is something a pedophile would say. I'm not gonna do anything to you that you won't like. Because you think that because you're enjoying a sexual relationship with a child, the child will enjoy it too. Oh, it'll feel good. Let me kill him, please. Please. And also, Finney's response to this, if you try to touch me, I'll scratch your face. And then the person upstairs will know that something happened and you'll have to explain why your face is scratched. He's already knowing. He's already knowing, and people are like, oh, the grabber's not a pedophile. Well, he sure didn't kidnap Finney to take him to a fucking norebang, okay? Like, what are we talking about? I have to mention, Ethan Hawke gives a fucking stunning performance as the grabber. Like, he has a menacing aura. Every time he's on camera, I'm fucking scared, and it's just a movie. It's just a movie, and also I'm an adult, okay? He's menacing. Ethan Hawke did a great job with this character. So, the grabber lets Finney know that the basement is soundproof. Because Finney's like, oh, like, I'll scream, like, and I'll get the person that is upstairs' attention. And the grabber's like, oh, you could try. But this room is soundproof. I soundproofed it myself. Now, again, I'm sorry. I know I'm talking about this, and we're not even, like, more than halfway through the movie, but why would a man kidnap a child and put them in a soundproof room with only a mattress and a toilet? I'm just asking for the people who don't think the grabber's a pedophile. I'm just asking, like, look. Anyways, so after finding this out and being left on his own again, Finn is like sitting and trying to figure out some way to escape, but he eventually says, like, I'm not getting out of here. Like, he's not content. He says, like, he's already accepted his fate. He doesn't think that there's anything he can do. And his reasoning behind thinking that he can't get out of here is because if Robin, his friend who he admired and who was strong and brave and tough, couldn't get out of here, how could he possibly get out of here? But in this moment, the phone rings again. When Finney goes to pick up the phone, he, hello? Who's there? Typical horror movie shit. And all he hears is static. So Finn goes back to lay on the mattress. He falls asleep. He wakes up. And guess who the fuck is in the room with him? The grabber. Just watching him sleep. So once Finney realizes that the grabber has been in there just fucking watching him sleep, and he promptly gets a fucking chill down his back, he's like, oh, I'm hungry. And the grabber is like, no, I can't feed you. And Finney's like, well, what the fuck did you come down here for then? And the grabber, and I quote, says, I just wanted to look at you. Just to look at you. Kill him. Also, he strolls his way to the door, and before he like leaves and locks the door, he's like, I'll leave. I'll go upstairs. I just wanted to look at you, but I'll leave. You're a sick fucker. Now, after this interaction with the grabber, the phone rings once again. Finney goes to pick it up once again, but this time, on the other line, he hears someone creepily whisper his name, Finney. And he gets scared shitless. I mean, understandably so, and he hangs that shit up. And I'm just thinking, like, that's OD. Like, he's already dealing with being kidnapped, and now he gotta deal with ghosts that somehow know his name. Despite Finney hanging up the phone just proceeds to ring. Like, it's just ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. It's like when your mom is trying to find out where you are because you definitely were somewhere you're not supposed to be. And once you pick up the phone, it's ¿Dónde tú estás? ¿Haciendo qué? So Finney finally decides, like, he has to pick up the phone. And on the other line is a previous victim of the grabber. We don't know who it is for a while, but eventually the person on the line says, like, your arm is mint. They have this conversation where Finney asks, like, who is this? And the person says, like, I don't remember. Like, the first thing that you lose is your name. And then he proceeds to say, like, but, you know, your arm is mint. And that's how Finney and the audience find out that the kid on the other line is Bruce Yamada. We also find out that the grabber hears the phone ringing sometimes too, but he just doesn't want to believe it. And I'm just like, how audacious can one person be? Even if you didn't want to believe the phone was ringing, with the type of shit that you're doing, why would you chance leaving the phone there? Like, you really, like, I'm not gonna go as far to say that he's a narcissist, but this is definitely some narcissistic behavior here, because you think, like, you're so in charge and in control and powerful that you don't have to take the phone out, even though that you've heard it ring before. Even though it's in the room where you have kidnapping victims and you know that you heard the phone ringing before and that they hear it too. So Bruce basically tells Finney, like, there's these tiles that have dirt under them and, like, you should dig up the dirt. And this is one of many assists that Finney is going to have throughout this movie. After this conversation with Bruce, we're shown a bunch of, like, Bruce's baby videos and pictures and a lot of him, like, playing baseball. And it's just very emotional. Like, it's so sad. Like, he was only in middle school. He just started, like, taking baseball, like, more seriously. And he was pretty good. And now he's dead and he doesn't even remember his own name, apparently. We're seeing these, like, clips and videos of Bruce. I'm not sure if it's through Gwen or not, but I'm pretty sure it is. We're seeing the videos and pictures of Bruce as a child, and then we're cutting to Gwen. So I'm assuming this is from one of her visions that we're just being, like, let in on. But Gwen also sees Finn in her dream. She saw Finn, like, banging on a door trying to escape, and so she promptly goes out in the middle of the night on her bike to, like, bike around the neighborhood to see if she can recognize the door that she saw in her dream. But she's definitely unsuccessful. So the grabber finally brings Finney some food. I'm pretty sure it's just some fucking scrambled eggs. And Finney's like, what did you put in that? And the grabber makes a joke. He's like, salt and pepper? But he's basically like, eat it or don't eat it. It doesn't matter anyway. What would I have to drug you for? I already have you down here. And then he leaves. But when he leaves, he doesn't lock the door. So Finney, of course, he's starting to think, like, oh, he didn't lock the door. Maybe he forgot. Maybe I can, like, escape. But before Finney can get, you know, across the threshold, the phone starts ringing again. So he goes up to it and he picks it up, and the person on the other line tells him, like, don't go, it's a trap. After the warning to not go upstairs, Finney tries to figure out who he's talking to because he recognizes that it's not Bruce. But the person on the other line says, you know, like, I don't remember my name. And Finney tries to, like, help him remember something by saying, like, oh, like, did you used to play baseball or something? Or, like, I play baseball. And the person on the other line says, like, we don't play baseball here. He's like, oh, that's nice that you play baseball, but we don't play baseball here. And after saying this, the person on the line says, well, I didn't play baseball, but I remember I delivered newspapers. And this is how Finney realizes that he's talking to someone named Billy. Billy Showalter had a missing fire as well, and everyone knows that he used to deliver newspapers. And I know I've said this so many times already, but this motherfucker is a pedophile. Because he's literally waiting upstairs for Finney to try to escape. He's sitting in a chair with his mask on maliciously, no shirt on, belt in hand, man spreading, just waiting for Finney to come. Like, it's literally like a sick game for him in his attempt of asserting dominance and instilling obedience into Finney. That is a pedophile. That's a groomer. This visual of him sitting and waiting for Finney upstairs makes me sick to my stomach every time. Despite the warning, Finney attempts to go upstairs, but he realizes before he gets too far that he probably shouldn't, and he just goes back downstairs, thankfully. Billy calls again and tells Finney to look for this cable that he hid somewhere in the room and try to use it to get to the window. Now, Gwen is dreaming of Billy and the grabber. She basically sees Billy, you know, wrapping up the newspapers with his golden retriever dog and going on his paperboy route, and then him promptly getting snatched up by the grabber. So Finney tries Billy's plan, and the window in this room is very high up, so he tries to use the cable to climb up there and maybe, you know, find a way to shoo himself through the window, even though it has bars. He's very smart. Like, this whole sequence, like, he's a very intelligent child, but he eats shit. Like, he gets to the top of the window and he promptly eats shit, busts his ass, and it's a failed attempt. So after having these dreams, Gwen decides that maybe she should talk to her father about them, which is very brave considering how that went the last few times. This is where we learn further, like, why the dad has so much anger regarding these visions and dreams. We learned that his wife, or the mother of his children, also had these visions and dreams, and that she ended up committing suicide. And so he has this very deep fear that if Gwen sees the same things and has the same experiences as her, that she might also end up taking her own life. Now, this is very important for us to characterize the father. Without this scene, this father would literally just be like typical abusive alcoholic father. Not to say that he still isn't, because that's really what he is throughout the whole movie. Again, call a spade, but this gives us very good insight into, like, okay, like, his anger isn't just from like this far off place. His anger is grounded in this deep rooted fear of losing a loved one to something out of his control and out of their control, and that is quote unquote like not real. He also ends up giving in and not letting himself get angry or have that fear like overtake how he reacts. He decides to indulge Gwen, and they both go driving around looking for the house or something that Gwen can recognize from her dreams in hopes of finding Finn. So I guess the police were doing some type of work, because they end up knocking on somebody's door, and the person that answers the door is named Max. The actor that played this character, he was also in Sinister with Ethan Hawke, and he unfortunately passed away, so rest in peace. But we quickly catch on to the fact that Max is the grabber's brother, and that the police basically like knock on the door of the right house, but no party involved knows that they're in the right place, because Max is also investigating the missing children, but the police don't take him seriously because he's literally coked out. The grabber comes back downstairs and he starts a conversation with Finney again, and he asks Finney like what's his name, And this is, again, a very manipulative attempt to quote unquote gain trust, because this conversation is basically the grabber describing like how Finney is different from the other boys that he kidnapped and murdered. He says like, "Oh, I didn't learn any of the other boys' names until like I found the pictures and the names of them in the paper after what I did. But I want to know your name because you're special." So this is his attempt at building rapport with Finney and like, yeah, you're different, you're special, like. But like I said earlier, we know that this attempt at building trust or rapport doesn't work because Finney's very smart, and Finney's like, "Okay, I'll tell you my name," and he lies about his name. And then the grabber gets visibly upset because he has a newspaper in his hand in which there's a picture of Finney and his name there as well. So in reaction to Finney lying to him, the grabber, like I said, he gets noticeably upset, but then he leaves the room and he leaves the door unlocked again. So he's trying to play this game again, this game of dominance and obedience and fear again. And Finn, understandably so, he goes up to the door and he's thinking about trying to go up the stairs again, but the phone rings and stops him. And then we see the visual of the grabber waiting upstairs again, which makes my stomach churn. He's sitting upstairs, he has the mask on, he has the belt. This time, his shirt is unbuttoned, he has the pants on, he's manspreading. And this is where I realized he actually has two belts. So he has the belt that he regularly wears, and then I guess a belt specifically for abusing children. That's so great to know. I love that. So Finn sees dead people, literally. This is not the first time in the movie he sees like a dead person, but it's one of like the most intimidating, so that's why I mention it now. The person that called Finney this time is Griffin Stagg. He sees Griffin like just this apparition of a boy floating in the air, spinning around, and then he stops and points at something. It's just very scary, very creepy, very off-putting. Griffin is telling Finney like, "Hey, you don't have a lot of time." The grabber is starting to get very anxious. He thinks that he's gonna get caught. Like, you don't have a lot of time. Do you know you have 30 minutes? You have 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Griffin tells Finney that he has to, quote unquote, play the game. Griffin tells Finney that this game is called Naughty Boy, and that Finney has to play the game if he wants the grabber to move on to the next part. Griffin specifically says the next part is his favorite part. His favorite part. So if we already know that the game of Naughty Boy is him waiting to see if the child that he kidnapped is going to try to escape through the unlocked door and then promptly beating their ass with a belt, what comes after that? And why is it his favorite part? How much further proof do we need that he's a pedophile? Griffin tells Finney that he's in luck because due to like his anxiety, the grabber hasn't been sleeping, and since he hasn't been sleeping, he's really fucking tired, and he's actually fallen asleep in the chair waiting for Finney upstairs right now. And Finney realizes, oh shit, the grabber's asleep upstairs and he left the door unlocked. Like, this is my chance to escape. So Billy explains that upstairs there's a lock on the door, and the combination to the lock is his because the lock is actually from when he had a bike or something like that, and the grabber took it after killing him. Griffin tells Finney that he thought he would forget the code, so he wrote it down somewhere. Finney finds the code, he braves his way upstairs, and he has to try a bunch of different combinations for the code because Griffin can't remember what order they go in. And he gets the combination, he opens the lock, but the fucking dog, because of course the grabber has a dog, starts barking. I think the dog's name is Samson, if I'm remembering correctly. The dog barks after hearing Finney open the door, and the grabber promptly wakes up and chases his ass down. Honestly, this whole scene is terrifying. Like, leading up to the grabber waking up, it's fucking terrifying. It's reminiscent of like when you have to learn the creaks in the tiles or the floors in your house to like avoid, you know, something. I won't say much more than that, but it's that same feeling. It's like memorizing the layout that it's the safest for you to travel around your home. But in this case, it's not his home, and he's not just memorizing it, you know, for emotional safety, he's doing it for physical safety because someone wants to fucking murder him. Honestly, this escape attempt, it really breaks my heart because Finney was so close to escaping. Like, if the dog didn't bark, he would have gotten away. Or even if the dog did bark and Finney just ran somewhere else, like, he tried to run in front of the houses. And what I mean by that, this is the suburbs, so all of the houses are like kind of the same and they're facing across from each other. So Finney tries to run in this street to get away from the grabber, but it's late at night and no one's outside, and the grabber just gets in his car, zooms up to wherever Finney got, which is not very far, and he tackles him. And although the lights, because I think there may be motion detector lights, the lights in certain houses go off, alerting like anyone to like movement outside, and the grabber pulls out a knife and holds it to Finney's throat and just like threatens him that if he says or does anything, like, oh, I'll strangle you with your own intestines. Oh, my sentiment about this was the same since I first watched it, because I thought, like, why, like, what type of neighborhood is this? This is supposed to be a suburban neighborhood where people know that there's children, but they also know that there's someone going around kidnapping children, and somehow there's no, like, nobody patrolling outside. There's no police, like, watching the neighborhood. There's no, like, there's no neighborhood watch. Nobody's out here trying to check for criminal activity despite knowing that there's a serial killer amongst them. I just, what type of neighborhood is this? Now, after Finney gets bonked in the fucking head, like, the grabber literally punches his lights out and then just throws him back in the basement. We're cutting back to Gwen. Gwen is in her room, and she has her cross, and she's talking to God, and she says, Jesus, what the fuck? I mean, what the fuck? Because she's understandably upset about, like, everything that's happening. She's basically, like, having this kind of crisis of faith, because she's like, I'm asking you for help to, like, help find my brother, and the one time I'm asking you for help, you don't give me the dreams, and the dreams that you give me, the visions that you give me, they don't even mean anything. Like, what the fuck? And it's just, it's funny, but it's also sad. And yeah, that's all I can really say about it. So the phone rings again, and this time Finney is talking to Vance Hopper. And Finney knows that it's Vance within like a few minutes of being on the phone with him, because Vance has a very particularly vulgar way of speaking. I mean, Vance literally tells Finney, today's the day, motherfucker. Oh, I'm sure. We're seeing like memories from Vance's life again. I'm pretty sure this is just us seeing the visions that Gwen has, but we see that Vance was about that fucking life. Okay, he had anger issues, and he was a violent person, and he was not afraid to take out his violence on anyone. Vance was definitely about that life. He was very violent and volatile, and aggressive. That's not really a good thing, because it ended with him getting arrested. Like, we're shown him getting into a physical altercation with a group of other boys, for just one of them bumping into him, and then he's getting like dragged out by the police in handcuffs. So Gwen realizes that like she's in a dream, and she follows Vance into the cop car, and the car for some reason ends up stopping in front of this house, and she gets out to try to see like any notable visual markers so that she can try to remember it for when she wakes up. We're specifically supposed to pay attention to the house number 7741. I don't know if Gwen specifically sees the number or not, but the audience definitely does. Gwen just sees the house. Vance advises Finney to try to escape through the deep freezer or the freezer, I'm not sure which one, but basically the room that he's in connects to a wall, and behind that wall is like a freezer, so he tries to escape through there, but he fails. After another failed escape attempt, he just like throws himself on the floor and starts bawling, and again it's just like he's literally just a child. It's so gut-wrenching. Like, he literally is just a child, and he is accepting that like he's not gonna get out of here. Like, there's nothing he can do. Like, he's that afraid and like tired of trying and fighting. I'm so maternal towards Finn. Like, oh my gosh, it's heartbreaking. Of course, the phone rings again, and this time it's my goat Robin, And Robin works to remotivate Finn to like not give up and not accept that he's gonna die. He tells Finn like, you know, he needs to keep fighting, like you need to stand up for yourself. He tells Finn, I'm not gonna leave you behind. He wants his death to mean something. If he had to die, he wants it to have been for Finn to survive. So Robin tells Finn to take the phone, fill it up with dirt to make it heavier, and that he's gonna use it to basically fight against the grabber. This scene is like one of those that make this movie so lovable, because Robin is basically training and like helping Finney practice attacking and fighting back against the grabber. Robin tells Finney to raise the phone, take a fast step back, step forward, step back, and then swing. And they go through that sequence of motions like a few times. And it's just, oh my gosh, like one child trying to help another child survive, and that child is already dead. Like it the gravity of the situation, like he's telling Finney, you have to fight back, and the alternative to not fighting back is to just die and to end up like Robin. And Robin doesn't want him to end up like that, but Finney's like, he's a child and he's scared and he's already had so many attempts at escaping that failed. So it's just it's a very touching scene to see like Robin and Finn's friendship and relationship lasting even past like Robin dying. And then it's even more sad because it's like, oh, like their relationship, their friendship was so strong, it transcends like, you know, life and the state of being alive. But it does so because Finn's chances of ending up dead are very, very high. It's very tragic. So after practicing with Robin, Finney's like, oh, will I hear from you again? And Robin tells Finney like, oh, this was the last call.
I'm having a fucking panic attack right now. I need to calm the fuck down.
After her vision of Vance in the house, Gwen is back out looking for Finney. And she honestly looks, I think the kid's name is Georgie. She looks like that kid from It. As Gwen is biking around looking for the house, she's jump scared by the dead boys that Finney was talking to, and they're blocking her way in the street. She falls off her bike and she looks to the left and sees, oh, that's the fucking house that I saw in my dream, and she promptly calls the police. And now we see that the grabber is going around buying things to dispose of Finney's body. Meanwhile, Max, the grabber's brother, the one that's very much still coked out, he realizes that the radius, I don't know what it's called specifically, but radius that the serial killer that he's doing this investigation on like works in, his house, or his brother's house, the one that he's staying in temporarily, falls within that radius. And then he realizes that his brother is the grabber because he realizes, oh shit, like his brother has something in the basement that he doesn't want him to see, and he lives within this area that the serial killer works in. And you know, everything just kind of clicks into place for him. So after this realization, Max goes downstairs to the basement, partially because he can't believe it, partially because he wants to see it like firsthand. And he goes downstairs to the basement and he sees that Finney's actually there, and he's like, oh my god, like, and he goes on this whole little spiel about how he knew like his brother was hiding something, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And he tries to reassure Finney like, oh, like, don't worry, like, don't be scared, he's not here. And then tries to have a conversation with him. And this whole thing like pissed me off because I know that he's like coked out, but in what circumstance would you, as like a human being, right, in what circumstance do you think that there's a child kidnapped in your basement and you don't either immediately call the cops or you don't urgently escort them out of the basement and out of the house? Because he opened the door to the basement and then was just standing in the threshold of the doorway. You were not trying to get that kid out. You were trying to indulge and be nosy and get into the drama of it. And that's exactly why the grabber hit him on the head with an axe and killed him. Like, Max is a certified dumbass, basically. After getting the call from Gwen, the police are finally pulling up to the grabber's house. This dog, Samson, is the epitome of why I don't personally fuck with dogs. Amongst many reasons, the fact that he's like aiding in the grabber killing this child is one of them, because dogs can be trained to do anything for their owner's love and like food. And that's exactly what Samson does. He's helping the grabber, like, intimidate Finney. Because the grabber, after killing his brother, after axing Max, he goes up to Finney. He's like, oh, yeah, I want this to hurt. He grabs Samson. He ties Samson up somewhere that's, like, far enough from Finney that he can't, like, do him any harm, but close enough that if Finney were trying to leave, Samson would get him. And then he takes the axe and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take my time. Usually I use a knife, but for you, you're special. I want to make sure that it hurts. Oh my gosh. Finney, he was prepared for this. He basically went home alone on the grabber. He was setting up little trip wires and things to get the grabber in a vulnerable position so that he could fucking survive, and he definitely ate that. After the grabber sets up Samson, he lunges at Finney. Finney dodges and he runs. He runs to where, you remember when I said earlier that Finney was told to dig up the dirt under, like, these tiles? Well, he did exactly that. He goes and runs over there to where he digged up the dirt. He jumps over the little hole in the ground, and the grabber runs directly into the hole, falls into it, breaks his fucking ankle, and now he's stuck. After the grabber gets stuck under the tiles and the dirt and he has a broken ankle, Finney gets to wailing on him, and he makes sure he keeps the black phone that has the dirt stuffed in it on him through these punches, so there's that extra weight. Eventually punches the grabber so much that the mask that he has on, like, falls off. I don't know if it's falling off because of the punches or just within this, like, interaction, and Finney ends up snatching it off, but he does good in doing so, because once the mask falls off, the grabber, like, gets startled and stops fighting back and tries to cover his face. And Finney takes advantage of this quick time event, because that's really what it was, to promptly strangle the grabber. He uses the cord from the phone, he hooks it around his neck, and he just starts tugging on that motherfucker. Now, while all of this is happening, while Finney is strangling the grabber and, like, getting closer and closer to snapping his neck, the phone rings. And they both hear it, and Finney puts the phone up to the grabber, and on the other line are the other victims that Finney was talking to, and they're all taunting him. Vance tells him, today's the day, motherfucker. Bruce says, Finney's arm is mint, and he's gonna use it to kill you. Robin says, I can't kill the hijo de puta myself, so Finney's gonna do it for me. And Billy just laughs. After snapping the grabber's neck, Finney realizes he still has to deal with Samson, because Samson is, like, tied up in front of the door to leave. But if you remember, I said earlier, Finney tried to escape through, like, a freezer or deep freezer. Within that freezer, there were, like, ribeyes or pieces of meat, and Finney uses those, like, now thawed out pieces of meat to distract Samson and walk out of the door. He, like, really takes his time to get from the basement to upstairs, and remember, there's still a padlock on the door. So he also takes his time to put the combination in. And throughout this scene, when I first watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, don't tell me it's gonna be like Scream, where you think the killer is dead, but, like, they come back to life and somehow the grabber's gonna come and attack him again. Like, I was so scared. I was so scared for my boy, okay? Then he successfully escapes, and the police simultaneously find the burial sites for the grabber's victims. Now, I didn't make this clear earlier, but basically, the police are at a house across from or next to the house that Finney is in. So while Finney is fighting with the grabber, the police are doing things, but they're not anywhere near, like, actually rescuing him. Finney rescued himself. So Gwen was waiting outside of the house for the police and for them to hopefully find Finney, and she spots Finney across the street coming out of the house, and she's the first one to see him. She runs up to him, they embrace, it's very emotional, the family's reunited. Once Finney and Gwen get put into, like, an ambulance and given blankets, the father finds them and he literally gets on his knees and starts begging for forgiveness. Me personally, because I'm an asshole, when I saw this, I just thought he's a fucking loser. But on a deeper level and being, reflective about it, obviously this does a lot of work for his character development, or just characterizing him in general, because the father is begging for forgiveness because he realizes that his alcoholism is literally what put his children in danger. If he wasn't, inebriated all the time, if he wasn't so crass and, like, angry and violent, things might have ended up differently for Finney. He could have paid more attention, he could have been more present, could have been a better father. And he's begging his children for forgiveness because he finally realized he hasn't been a good father, and him not being a good father really put their lives in danger. So although I think the father is a loser piece of shit, I can also respect that, you know, he at least realized that he's a loser piece of shit and is trying to be better about it. As usual, the police take credit for the kid breaking the case, solving the mystery. They're on the news talking about, yes, this is how we figured it out, this is what we found. And it's just the typical, yep, they're taking credit for someone else's work. And the last thing that we see in the Black Phone is Finney going back to school, and this actor is so good. I always thought, even from my first viewing of this movie, that the actor for Finney did such a great job. Like, I think everyone does a pretty good job, but Finney specifically is so good at portraying emotions with just like subtle changes in his face and the muscles. And it's, I don't know how to explain it. We see him walking through the hallways, and it's very obvious that he's nervous, like, to be back at school, and that he's hearing everyone talk about him, and they're saying like, yeah, he killed the grabber, like, you know, the typical gossip that you hear in school, but this time it's about, you know, him murdering someone and people are intimidated by him. And we can see like he has like this face of like discomfort and like anxiety, but also some type of swelling like pride. And the last thing that we see is him walking to the classroom. I think it's like the science class that he has, and he's sitting next to his partner, which is a girl that he, you know, had a crush on. I didn't mention her throughout the movie because she's not really that important, and him having a crush on her doesn't change anything in the plot. But he did have a crush on her, and she did end up being his lab partner before he got kidnapped. So the last thing we see is him walking through the halls, trying to get back to, you know, his normal life, being in school, going to science class, sitting at the desk with her, and flirting with her. Where she's like, hey Finney, like, how are you? Because she's trying to, I guess, be normal about it, not trying to pry. And Finney, with a smirk and with some pride on his face, he's like, call me Finn. And I said, oh, my boy has grown up a little bit. And that's where the film ends. Okay, so now that we've gone through the movie breakdown, let's do the movie review. As you can probably tell, I do like this movie, so I am gonna rate it with bias. So I do give the Black Phone 2 points for the cinematography. I think the setting was very great. The setting was important to the whole plot. This had to be in the suburbs. This had to be set in a certain time period for it to work. And I think the lighting throughout the film is pretty good, especially when we're just shown shots of the grabber. The lighting when we're shown the grabber, it just adds so much to like the fear. I definitely also have to give the 2 points for the soundtrack. The film score and the sound design were great throughout the whole movie. Now when it comes to the dialogue, I'm also going to give it the 2 points, but I do want to say that obviously like there are certain parts of the dialogue that seem a little bit like off, especially when it comes to like the cursing and like the insults throughout the movie. But I think very intentional, because each instance of someone like cursing or saying something vulgar, it is intentionally used to make the character seem like more of a fighter, more aggressive, more outspoken, more rambunctious, to add to their characterization. Now for the plot, I'm only going to give it 1 point. It was a very good plot. Like, you do get hooked in very quickly, but I fear that it was very predictable, at least in my opinion, as someone who likes horror movies. Throughout every attempt that Finney had at escaping, it was pretty predictable that he wasn't going to escape. As soon as I found out that Gwen has these visions, it was pretty predictable that she would be the reason that Finney gets found, and found alive at that. So while the plot was great, it does keep you interested. It's a great plot. It's very predictable throughout. And for the last category, acting, I do give the 2 full points. I think the performances and the characters were great. Again, although the dialogue and certain things are kind of cheesy, the actors did a great job, and the characters, we actually care about them and they have importance. Even the ones that don't show up like that much throughout the movie have some type of importance for the main character's character development. And also the actor that played Finney, like, yes, the actor that played Finney and Ethan Hawke as the grabber, they definitely do deserve the 2 points for acting. Overall, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. Again, please know that this is with a lot of bias because I do like this movie. The rating is not professional. I'm not a professional. I just like watching movies and talking about things. So my 9 out of 10 may seem very generous to you if you've watched The Black Phone and you don't like it that much. But I think it's everything that you could want in a horror movie. And for that, I think it deserves a 9 out of 10. More specific with that bias and the 9 out of 10 and this being like the ideal horror movie, you have a villain that is actually scary and menacing. To the cinematography, there are scenes, like all of the scenes that have Gwen having visions, those scenes are chef's kiss. They're visually stunning, along with the scenes of just the grabber being a menace. For the soundtrack, the film score in itself sets the tone for the movie being super creepy. Like I said, that title track was very ominous and uncomfortable. Sound design definitely does add to the fear and the gut-wrenching anxiety throughout this film. The dialogue I do think is kind of corny. I thought that since I first watched the movie, but I stand by it being authentic and intentional. I think it's authentic for kids that are going against authority figures to curse a lot and be like erratic because they think that it positions them in a place of like rebellion and hopefully makes them seem like they're different from other people or other kids by having more like rebellious tendencies or energy. Specifically, the points that I give for the dialogue are for the dialogue between the grabber and Finney himself. I think their dialogue is very intentional and very authentic. Finney is a child trying to figure out any clues that can help him escape, and the grabber is a pedophile groomer that is trying to manipulate Finney as much as possible before killing him. And none of that dialogue is super like on the nose. They don't blatantly hold the information out in front of you so much as give you some hints. And while Finney figures things out, we figure things out as well. There's a sense of suspense throughout the film because we're just scared of the grabber in general and we don't want Finney to get hurt. But there's not really a sense of dread because in my opinion, for my viewing, it's pretty predictable that Finney's gonna survive. So I didn't have any sense of like deep dread of like, oh my gosh, like the grabber is gonna win or the grabber's gonna get away with it or the grabber is gonna kill Finney. And I think if we did have that dread, I would have given that point. The performance of the actor that played Finney was amazing, as well as Ethan Hawke's performance as the grabber. Gotta give the points where the points are due. Beyond performance, the characters themselves are very well fleshed out. Even the father, like for a perfect example, the father is not like the main character or even one of the most important characters in the film, but he's essential, and he's essential in that he helps develop Finney's characterization as someone who is used to like rolling with the punches and compartmentalizing and just accepting his fate. And even the father has good characterization and somewhat character development, because from the start of the film we just view him as an abusive alcoholic father, but by the end of the film we realize that his violence and his fear and even his alcoholism stems from a deep place of grief and anxiety and loss. He's violent and he's fearful because he lost his wife to suicide, and he's even more aggressive with the daughter because she has the similar visions and dreams that his wife did, and he doesn't really know how to handle it. Even a somewhat minor character like the father in this series has great character development or characterization, and as such I think it's justified for me to give that point for the characters, because each character that we see is important and developed enough or does enough to help develop another character. I mean, even Max basically is just a cokehead, but he serves a purpose for characterize the grabber as someone who has no empathy or genuine love for anyone, because after the grabber kills Max, he turns to Finney. He's like, oh, he was an idiot, but he was my idiot, and look what you made me do. He did not give a damn that Max was dead. But that is all I have for you. This has been Malia's Room, the movie review and breakdown segment. I hope you enjoyed. Jane, annyeong, hasta luego. Bye.